Rick Stroud covers the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the Tampa Bay Times. He also hosts Sports Day Tampa Bay, his podcast, and joins us on the program. I know you were at practice yesterday, but what did you hear when Ryan Jensen went down with that injury at practice?
A horrible scream, Dan, that I've only heard once before, and that's when a guy on a basketball court tore his ACL. And it's unmistakable. I think everybody knew that it was a serious injury. We're waiting for the proverbial news, but when you see a bunch of guys gather around a cart like that and wish him well, you know that he's not coming back to play anytime soon.
Give this audience an idea of how important Ryan Jensen is to this team's success.
Well, I mean, I think on the offensive line, arguably he's the most important guy, right? I mean, when Tom Brady decided to unretire, within hours, the first player they signed or re-signed was Ryan Jensen, who had an offer from the Cincinnati Bengals. And it was that important to Tom Brady. When you're talking about that relationship, calling out the signals, the line of scrimmage, but more than that, he's a tone setter for that entire offensive line. And, Brady is very particular, right down to whether a guy wears a glove or how much baby powder he puts in his rear end. I mean, he's on it, right? And I think it's a huge loss because of all that Ryan Jensen represents. And if you go back, all you got to do is watch the Washington game last year, and Tom Brady gets hit within the first two plays hard inside, and he's not the same player the rest of the game. And I think that interior offensive line, where they've got two new guards now already with Shaq Mason and probably Aaron Stinney, now you've got to replace the center. It's not going to be easy.
Bigger deal, losing Gronk, adding Kyle Rudolph, or adding Julio Jones?
Wow. Probably losing Gronk. Probably that's the bigger deal. Simply because when he could play, when he was healthy, he's the greatest tight end of all time. And the synergy that he had with Tom Brady is second to almost none in NFL history. So, Gronk did so many things, and he also brought an attitude to the building you can't replace. He never had a bad day, Dan. He's exactly as you see him on TV, man. And I think they're going to miss that. And that's why I think Julio is here in part to try to make up for those 55 catches, 800 yards, and 5 touchdowns. I mean, you got to get that somewhere. You're not going to get it from Kyle Rudolph necessarily. So that's a really big loss. It's kind of incalculable, really.
Julio Jones, what's he have left at what age, 33?
Yeah, well, for one day, man, he put on a highlight show. It was impressive. If you could have just bottled up the first day out there, they were throwing fades to him, and he was jumping over guys and mossing people. It was impressive. So that shows you what the upside is. The thing is, can he stay healthy? And that's been his deal the last 2 years. He's missed 14 games. And I think that the Bucs will be smart and try to keep him on some kind of a pitch count. If nothing else, you consider what he can do in the red zone with guys like Mike Evans and Godwin when he gets back, and Russell Gage and Cam Brate. I mean, they've got some problems for defenses, and so. But just his pedigree. I mean, they said the other day, Tristan Wirfs said it's like a fantasy team. He goes, it's like a video game. If you're in the transfer portal in the NFL, you're coming to Tampa. I mean, it doesn't matter, they're the all-name team, but that's what this year is about, and it's what it's always about with Tom Brady.
Is Brady done talking about retirement?
Well, we haven't talked to him yet, so we're going to ask him about it. We talked to him one time in the offseason. To answer your question, I think he is. He's decided to play this year. My guess is he's done playing in Tampa. But unlike last year, at the end of the season when he decided to retire, he really didn't know what he was going to do. We know now that he has a deal at Fox, to call games for $37.5 million. Not a bad secondary job. So at least he's got that in his pocket. And I think he'll, when it's over, he'll reassess like he always does. But it depends. Does the season end in confetti or condolence, Dan? I mean, the greatest players in any sport have trouble walking away, and he can absolutely still play. Don't get me wrong. His arm looks live, and it's amazing what he's been able to do. He could probably do it till he's 50 years old. But I think that at least as far as the Bucs are concerned, they're looking at this as as the last dance, so to speak.
Have you used that in a column? Have you used confetti and condolence already?
I'm not sure if I have. I'm a very alliterative guy, Dan. So,
It's very good. It's very nice. But also, you look at this deal with Fox. If Tom had gone to Miami, which is what he wanted to do, and then he would have played for Sean Payton, and then he would slipped into ownership there, Jimmy Garoppolo could be with the Buccaneers right now.
No, he couldn't.
No. No way. If Tom wasn't there, they wouldn't have made a run.
He was on a list, but he wasn't high on the list. I mean, the thing I was told about Jimmy is, like, if you're going to run it 40 times a game, that's great. But if he could throw the deep ball, Dan, he'd had 2 more Super Bowl rings right now. And the one he has, Tom Brady won. So I don't think Jimmy was high on their list. There were other guys, and they weren't going to kick the tires on Deshaun Watson. The ownerships told him no. Baker Mayfield was probably on that list, but it would not have been quite the same vibe with any of those guys, to say the least.
Are the Buccaneers a threatening team?
Yes.
To win
absolutely.
it all? To win it all?
Yes.
Okay.
You know who their quarterbak is, right? Yeah.
Well, I know, but it's still like...
No, they have done some things in the offseason. And this injury, you can't quantify how big it is, because it really is big. But I think, defensively, Dan, they had to get more athletic. They let Ndamukong Suh, Jason Pierre-Paul go. They drafted Logan Hall. They brought in Akeem Hicks. They're going to let Joe Tryon-Shoyinka come off the edge. He's a first-round pick they had a year ago. They're more athletic. They got better in the secondary with depth with Keanu Neal
Well,
Logan
where would you
Ryan's,
put them in the hierarchy? Maybe the question should have been phrased better.
I don't think they're any worse than third best team in the NFC totally. I mean, look, the Rams, you give it to them, they're defending Super Bowl champions. You would figure that Green Bay is in that mix. But they're no worse than third, and probably second, I think.
We'll be in touch. I'm sure there'll be reason to give you a call, Rick. As always, great stuff. Thanks for joining us.
Next crisis, I'm here for you, buddy.
That's Rick Stroud, covers the Buccaneers, Tampa Bay Times. I thought it was interesting that he talked about, now certainly the severity and the value of Ryan Jensen, but also if Tom Brady had gone to the Dolphins, which that was his game plan, he wanted to go there, be the quarterback, and then he was going to eventually move up and be part owner of the Miami Dolphins. And then I thought, well, would Tampa have reached out to Jimmy Garoppolo? And then Rick saying, no. Not at all. And then you start to go, okay, Deshaun Watson, no ownership, wasn't interested. Baker Mayfield, maybe Baker Mayfield. And I wondered if Baker was going to end up in Tampa, this past summer. I thought maybe you bring him in, let him learn from Tom, and that he would be the eventual successor there. I don't know what their plans are going to be as they move forward with Brady. It feels like this is his last year. And I wonder if Gronk doesn't come back, and he brought up, is it going to be confetti or condolences? Which that's what it is for Tom Brady. It's either you win it or nothing else comes close. Like he doesn't deal in participation trophies, second place. This is about winning another Super Bowl here.